After moving back to India after living abroad for many years, there's one thing I realized very quickly. You start noticing everything differently. And before anyone misunderstands this video, this is not me saying that Europe is better than India, because honestly, there are many things that India does better too. But when you live abroad for a long period of time, there are certain things that become impossible to ignore. And today, I just want to talk about them honestly. A month ago, I moved back to India after living in England, traveling across Europe and working in luxury retail there. And coming back home has honestly been a weird mix of emotions. Because India feels chaotic but also alive, comforting but overwhelming at the same time. And I really think that's what makes this conversation so interesting. Let's talk about public transport. The one thing that Europe does incredibly well is public transport. And honestly, once you experience it properly, it changes your expectations completely. In many European cities, you genuinely don't need a car. Trains arrive on time, buses are organized very well, walking feels normal, and the main thing that the city is designed around the people and not just the traffic. I remember being able to travel between countries so easily, and it almost becomes a part of your lifestyle. Whereas in India, even though the infrastructure is improving rapidly, daily commute can still feel mentally exhausting sometimes, especially in the crowded cities like Delhi, Bengaluru, or Mumbai. Another thing I noticed is work life balance. In Europe, people genuinely value personal time. After work, people disconnect. They spend time with their families, go for walks, or sit in a cafe, and they travel often. Life doesn't always feel like a constant race there, and honestly, living there made me realize how important slowing down sometimes can be. In India, ambition is everywhere, which is amazing. But sometimes it also feels like people are under constant pressure to keep up. And speaking about moving abroad, one thing that can genuinely become stressful is finding the right accommodation in a completely new country, especially as a student. When you are already trying to adapt to a new city, new country, new culture, new lifestyle, the last thing you want is uncertainty about where you are going to live. That's why I'm happy to partner with Amber Students for this video. Amber helps students find verified student accommodation across different countries, making the process much simpler and less stressful. So, if you're planning to study abroad, I'll leave their link in the description below. Because trust me, having the right environment when you're moving abroad makes a huge difference. Another thing Europe does really well is cleanliness and having civic sense. And honestly, this is less about the governments and more about habits. People follow rules more clearly, public places are usually cleaner, queues are respected, and noise levels are usually lower. And over time you realize how much peaceful environments affect your mental state. But at the same time, India has an energy that Europe can never replicate. The warmth of people here, the spontaneity, the emotions, the social connections. Europe feels peaceful, but India feels alive. And maybe that's why adjusting back has been emotionally confusing in some ways. Another thing I noticed in Europe is the sense of having personal freedom and independence people have from a young age. People move out earlier, travel alone more confidently, make decisions independently, and there's generally less pressure around constantly following societal expectations. Explore new places, and you end up building your own identity. And honestly, living abroad taught me a lot about independence. Because when you are alone in another country, you learn everything yourself, from managing life to handling problems to becoming emotionally stronger. I think India is changing quickly too, especially with younger generations. But Europe definitely encourages individuality in a very different way. At the end of the day, I don't think one place is perfect. Living abroad simply teaches you to see the world differently. You stop blindly glorifying one side and start appreciating both for what they are. And honestly, I think moving abroad changed me more as a person than I realized at the time. But I'm curious, if you have lived abroad before, or if you dream about living abroad, what's one thing that you think India does better than Europe, and one thing that Europe does better? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And this is just the beginning, because in the next video, I want to talk about the things that India does better than Europe. I'll see you guys in the next one.